Welcome to today's episode of the podcast. We're talking about something every English learner faces at some point: how to think and respond quickly in English. If you've ever struggled to find the right words fast enough during conversations, you're not alone. Today, we'll share practical tips and strategies to help you respond faster and more confidently.
That's right. By the end of this episode, you'll know how to train your brain to think quicker in English. We'll also explore techniques that you can practice daily, making your responses feel more natural. Remember, listening to this podcast regularly will help improve your overall English listening and communication skills.
Exactly. So, let's dive in and see how we can boost your ability to think and respond faster in English. We'll be covering real-life techniques, stories, and exercises that you can try today to see improvements. When you're practicing thinking quickly in English, a good place to start is by keeping your answers simple. Instead of trying to create long, complex sentences, just say something short and to the point.
Exactly. If someone asks how your day was, you don't need to give a detailed response immediately. A quick "it was good" or "I had a busy day" works perfectly. Then, if you feel comfortable, you can add more details.
This strategy helps you stay engaged in the conversation without feeling pressured. The important thing is to keep the conversation moving while giving yourself time to think.
And as you practice this, you'll find that you can naturally extend your responses. You might start with a few words, but gradually build up to full sentences as your confidence grows.
That's true, and by starting with short responses, you reduce the chance of overthinking or feeling stuck during a conversation. Another great way to speed up your responses is to become familiar with common phrases. You know, the things people ask you often, like "how are you?" or "what do you do?"
Right. If you already have a go-to response for these frequent questions, it helps you avoid that moment of hesitation where you're unsure of what to say. For example, if someone asks, "What do you do for work?" you can quickly respond with "I'm a student" or "I'm an engineer."
Having these phrases ready makes your responses much faster and more natural. Plus, you can always add more information if you want to, but having a basic answer to start with helps keep the conversation flowing.
It's like having a toolbox of answers that you can pull from whenever you need them. The more you practice using them, the faster you'll be able to respond in real conversations.
And once you're comfortable with those common phrases, you can focus on adding variety to your answers. But always have those simple, reliable responses ready. A really useful exercise is practicing thinking in English, even when you're not in a conversation. This helps you get used to forming ideas and sentences without having to translate in your head.
Yes, thinking in English is a game changer. If you can start training your brain to think in English, you'll find that your responses become much quicker because you're not constantly switching between languages in your mind.
One way to practice this is to narrate your day to yourself in English. As you're going about your daily activities, describe what you're doing. For example, "I'm cooking dinner" or "I'm walking to the store."
Exactly. This exercise makes English a natural part of your thought process. The more you practice, the faster your responses will be in real conversations.
And the great thing about thinking in English is that you can do it anytime, anywhere. You don't need to wait for a conversation to practice, and over time, this will help you become more fluent. When you're in a conversation and need a few extra seconds to think, filler phrases can be really helpful. Instead of staying silent, you can say something like "that's a good question" or "let me see."
Yes, exactly. These phrases give you a little breathing room while keeping the conversation going. For example, if someone asks you something challenging, instead of freezing, you could say, "let me think for a moment," and then answer.
This way, you're not leaving awkward pauses, and it gives you just enough time to gather your thoughts and come up with a response.
And remember, native speakers use filler phrases all the time, so it's a natural part of conversation. It also shows that you're engaged and thinking about your answer.
That's right. It's a simple but effective trick that helps keep the conversation flowing and gives you time to think of a more thoughtful response. Another great way to improve your response time is to practice speaking with a partner. Having regular conversations with someone forces you to think and respond on the spot, which is the best way to get better.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be perfect. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become at thinking in English and responding quickly. Even if you make mistakes, that's okay because you're still improving.
Exactly. You could even set up specific times with your language partner where you focus on quick responses. Ask each other random questions and try to answer as fast as you can.
This kind of practice really helps you get used to thinking in English without overthinking or getting stuck.
And the more you practice with a partner, the more natural your conversations will become. You'll find that you start responding quicker and with more confidence. When you're trying to respond quickly, it helps to focus on the key words or main ideas of what you're trying to say. Instead of worrying about crafting a perfect sentence, just get the important words out first.
That's a great tip. For example, if someone asks you about your weekend, you don't need to form a complete sentence right away. You could start with key words like friends, park, or movie, and then build from there.
Exactly. This way, you're still participating in the conversation, and you can fill in the details as you go. It's better to start talking than to stay silent because you're searching for the perfect words.
Plus, when you focus on key words first, it reduces the pressure of having to respond with a full, complex sentence immediately. It's like giving yourself a head start in the conversation.
And once you're comfortable, you can gradually add more details to your response, but starting with the keywords helps you avoid those long pauses where you're searching for the right words. One of the best ways to improve your speed in thinking and speaking English is through shadowing. Have you ever tried it, Daniel?
Yes, I have. For those who don't know, shadowing is when you listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say in real time, like you're their shadow. It forces you to keep up with their pace and pronunciation.
Exactly. Shadowing is great because it trains your brain to process English faster and respond more quickly. It's a bit challenging at first, but the more you practice, the easier it gets.
And it's something you can do with podcasts like this one or with videos and movies. Just pick a native speaker, listen carefully, and try to repeat their words as closely as possible.
It's an excellent exercise to not only improve your speed, but also your pronunciation and listening skills. And as you continue, you'll find that your brain starts to respond faster in everyday conversations. Another important part of thinking and responding quickly in English is having a strong vocabulary, especially everyday phrases. The more words and phrases you know, the easier it is to respond without hesitation.
Right. If you're familiar with phrases like "I agree," that's interesting, or "Could you explain more?" You'll have a set of responses ready to go when you need them.
It's like having building blocks for a conversation. The more blocks you have, the faster you can put together a sentence. So focus on learning common phrases that are useful in everyday situations.
And these phrases don't have to be complicated. The goal is to have them ready so you can respond quickly, especially in casual conversations where the flow of speech is fast.
Exactly. You can practice these phrases during your daily routine, repeating them until they feel natural. Then, when you're in a real conversation, you'll have them at the top of your mind. One of the most effective techniques to think and respond quickly is starting with a simple sentence, then expanding on it. This gives you time to gather your thoughts while still keeping the conversation going.
Yes, like if someone asks you how your day was, you could start with something simple like "It was great." Then you can add more details, like "I went for a walk and had lunch with friends." Starting small helps avoid those awkward pauses.
Exactly. It's about getting the conversation flowing. Once you have your first sentence out, it's easier to add more details because the pressure is off. The person you're speaking with is more focused on your story than on how long it takes you to respond.
And the key is not to overthink it. Sometimes, when we try to think of the perfect response, we get stuck. But by starting with a simple answer, you give yourself that mental space to think about what else you want to say.
Right, and this technique is especially helpful for beginners who may still be building confidence. You're participating in the conversation without worrying about forming a perfect, long response right away.
And as you get more comfortable, you'll find that expanding your answers becomes easier and more natural. It's like a muscle you're training over time.
One of the biggest challenges learners face is translating from their native language to English before they respond. That extra step can slow you down to think and respond quickly. It's important to start thinking directly in English.
That's true. It's tempting to translate everything in your head, but it can make your responses slower and less natural. Thinking in English helps you become more fluent in your responses and more confident overall.
So, how do you train yourself to think in English? One way is to practice thinking in English throughout your day. For example, as you go about your routine, describe what you're doing in English, even if it's just in your head.
Yes, that's a good point. You don't have to wait until you're in a conversation to practice. You can think in English while brushing your teeth, making breakfast, or commuting to work. Over time, it becomes more natural.
And the more you do it, the faster your responses will be in real conversations. You won't have to pause and translate, which will help you keep up with the flow of conversation.
Thinking directly in English also helps you pick up on nuances and idiomatic expressions that don't always translate well. So, it's definitely worth practicing if you want to improve your fluency and speed.
Another great technique for responding quickly is using the context of the conversation to fill in any gaps in your understanding. You don't always need to know every single word to keep the conversation going.
Exactly. Sometimes, even if you miss a word or two, you can use the overall context to guess what the other person is saying and respond accordingly. This keeps the conversation flowing without getting stuck.
For example, if someone is talking about their weekend and you missed a word, you could still guess the meaning based on the rest of the conversation and respond with something like, "That sounds fun."
Right, and you can always ask follow-up questions if you're unsure, like, "Can you explain that a bit more?" It's better to ask for clarification than to stay quiet or hesitate for too long.
And the more you practice using context clues, the better you'll get at keeping up with conversations, even when you don't catch every word. It's a skill that improves with time.
Plus, using context helps build your confidence. You'll start to realize that even if you don't understand every single detail, you can still participate in the conversation and respond appropriately.
One last tip for thinking and responding quickly is to stay relaxed. When we're nervous, it's harder to think clearly, and that can slow down our responses.
Yes, I think everyone can relate to that feeling. When you're anxious, your mind can go blank and it becomes difficult to find the right words. Staying calm helps your brain process information more efficiently.
Exactly. If you feel yourself getting nervous, take a deep breath and remember that it's okay to pause for a moment to gather your thoughts. You don't have to rush your responses.
That's right. People don't mind if you take a second to think before you speak. In fact, it can make your responses clearer and more thoughtful. And as you stay relaxed, your confidence will naturally increase.
It's also helpful to remind yourself that making mistakes is part of learning. Don't let the fear of making mistakes stop you from responding quickly. The more you practice, the better you'll get.
And keeping a positive mindset is key. If you believe that you can improve and you give yourself the space to practice, you'll find that thinking and responding quickly in English will become much easier.
One effective way to prepare yourself for quick responses is to rehearse common situations that you might encounter in English conversations. This helps you build a mental library of responses you can use when needed.
Exactly. Think about situations you're likely to face, like introducing yourself, ordering food, or asking for directions. If you've practiced these responses beforehand, you'll be much faster when the time comes to actually use them.
And it's not just about memorizing phrases. The more you rehearse, the more flexible your responses become. You'll be able to adapt them to fit different situations, which will make you sound more natural in conversations.
Right? You can practice with a friend, a language partner, or even on your own. The goal is to get comfortable with common responses so they come to you quickly in real-time conversations.
It's also a great confidence booster. When you've rehearsed different scenarios, you won't feel as nervous because you know what to say. This makes responding faster and less stressful.
And once you're comfortable with common situations, you can challenge yourself by rehearsing more complex conversations. This helps you gradually improve your speed and fluency.
Another helpful technique is to focus on key vocabulary related to the topics you talk about most often. If you have a strong grasp of the words you use regularly, you'll be able to respond quickly without searching for the right words.
That's a great point. For example, if you work in a specific industry, or if there's a particular topic you discuss often, it's worth building your vocabulary in that area. That way, when the topic comes up, you're ready to respond with confidence.
And it's not just about learning new words, it's about knowing how to use them in sentences. So, practice using key vocabulary in different contexts. The more familiar you are with the words, the faster they'll come to mind during conversations.
Yes, you can make a list of important words and phrases and practice them daily. Over time, you'll find that your responses become faster because you've already internalized the vocabulary.
And focusing on key vocabulary also helps you understand what others are saying more easily, which is crucial for quick responses. When you're familiar with the words, you don't have to spend as much time processing them before you respond.
The more you build your vocabulary, the more confident and quick you'll be when speaking in English. It's one of the best ways to ensure you're always ready to respond quickly.
A great way to improve your response time in English is by listening to native speakers and imitating how they respond in conversations. This helps you understand common phrases and structures used in everyday communication.
Absolutely. Listening to how native speakers react in certain situations is a huge advantage. You'll notice how they phrase things and how their sentences flow naturally, which can help you respond more quickly.
By imitating their style, tone, and speed, you're training your brain to follow similar patterns. It's like practicing a script. The more you hear and repeat, the more automatic those responses will become when you're in a conversation.
One thing I like to recommend is watching TV shows or listening to podcasts in English. You can pick up on the little things like fillers, pauses, and expressions that make their speech more fluent and natural.
And don't forget to focus on the rhythm of the language. English has a particular cadence, and by imitating native speakers, you'll get a better sense of how to structure your sentences and keep your responses flowing smoothly.
It's not just about copying words, but about understanding the way sentences are structured and how responses are framed. This helps you build your own conversational style while speeding up your ability to respond.
One thing that can slow you down when responding in English is anxiety. The pressure to get everything perfect can make you hesitate or second-guess yourself. Managing that anxiety is key to improving your response time.
Yes, nervousness can really hold people back. You might know what you want to say, but anxiety makes you overthink every word. The trick is to stay calm and allow yourself the space to make mistakes while speaking.
Exactly. Remember that it's okay to make small mistakes when speaking English. The goal is communication, not perfection. The more relaxed you are, the easier it will be to find the right words and respond quickly.
One method to reduce anxiety is to take deep breaths before speaking. Pausing for just a moment can help clear your mind and give you the confidence to respond without hesitation.
And don't forget to practice speaking in low-pressure environments. The more you expose yourself to casual conversations in English, the less nervous you'll feel in more formal or stressful situations.
Building confidence through practice will naturally reduce anxiety. When you're not as worried about making mistakes, you'll respond much faster and more naturally.
Another strategy to think and respond quickly in English is to keep your answers simple. Trying to overcomplicate your responses can slow you down and make you hesitate.
That's true. You don't need to give long or complicated answers. Short, clear responses are often better, especially in everyday conversations. Focus on getting your point across instead of trying to sound too advanced.
Yes, aiming for simplicity also helps you avoid getting stuck searching for the perfect word. Sometimes, when we try to be too precise, it actually makes it harder to respond quickly.
Exactly. If you keep your responses straightforward, it reduces the mental load. You can focus on the flow of the conversation rather than worrying about every single word.
And once you're comfortable with giving simple answers quickly, you can always build on them later if you need to. The key is getting the conversation going without overthinking.
Simplicity leads to speed, and speed leads to confidence. So don't feel like you have to give the perfect answer every time. Start with what you know, and the rest will follow.
One fun and effective way to improve your ability to think and respond quickly in English is by setting up speed challenges for yourself. It's a great exercise to train your brain to react faster in conversations.
That's a good tip. You can give yourself a set amount of time, say 30 seconds or 1 minute to respond to a question in English. The idea is to push yourself to come up with an answer as quickly as possible.
It's a bit like timed quizzes or games. By doing this regularly, you train your brain to form responses under pressure, which mirrors real-life situations where you don't have a lot of time to think.
And you can start with easy questions like, what's your favorite food? Or what did you do yesterday? Then gradually move on to more complex topics. The important thing is to get comfortable responding quickly, no matter the question.
Exactly. You can even get a friend to ask you random questions or use a list of conversation prompts. The more you practice, the quicker your responses will become, especially when it counts.
Plus, it can be a lot of fun. You can turn it into a game where you challenge yourself to beat your previous time. And over time, you'll see your speed improving without sacrificing the quality of your answers.
Another great way to improve your quick response time is to learn and practice common conversation starters. These are phrases or questions that you can use at the beginning of any conversation.
Yes, knowing how to start a conversation can save you from those awkward moments when you're not sure what to say. With a few go-to phrases in your toolkit, you can get a conversation going without hesitation.
For example, questions like, how's your day going? Or what do you think about? Are simple but effective conversation starters. Once you get comfortable with these, starting and responding to conversations becomes much easier.
And it's not just about starting the conversation. Knowing how to respond quickly when someone asks you a similar question is just as important. If you've practiced how to answer basic questions, you'll feel more at ease.
Exactly. Once the conversation is flowing, you'll find it easier to respond naturally. And these starters can be adapted to almost any situation, which makes them extremely useful for both casual and formal conversations.
Learning common conversation starters also gives you time to think ahead. While the other person is responding, you can mentally prepare for your next response, which helps keep the conversation moving smoothly.
One thing that people often overlook when trying to think and respond quickly is the value of silence. You don't always have to rush to fill every gap in the conversation.
Exactly. A brief pause can actually give you time to think, and it can make your response more thoughtful. Sometimes we're so focused on responding quickly that we forget a short pause can improve the quality of our answers.
Yes, and taking a moment to collect your thoughts can help you avoid blurting out something you didn't mean or saying something unclear. Silence isn't always a bad thing. It can show that you're thinking carefully.
And it also gives the other person time to process what you've said, which can be important in more complex conversations. If you're discussing something deep, a pause can actually make the conversation more meaningful.
Exactly. There's no need to rush every response. In fact, learning to balance quick thinking with thoughtful pauses can make you a much more effective communicator.
Sometimes silence speaks volumes, and it shows that you're listening. So don't feel pressured to respond immediately if you need a moment to think.
To think and respond quickly in English, it's essential to expose yourself to how native speakers communicate. The more you listen to native speakers, the more you'll absorb how they naturally respond in conversations.
Absolutely. You can learn so much just by listening how they phrase their sentences, their tone of voice, and how they handle pauses or interruptions. It's a great way to improve both your comprehension and response time.
Podcasts, movies, or even interviews are great resources for this. When you listen, try to focus not only on the words they use, but also on how they navigate through different types of conversations.
Right, and don't just be a passive listener. You can pause the audio or video and try to respond as if you were in that conversation. This way, you're actively practicing thinking and responding quickly.
That's a great exercise. You can even try repeating the phrases or responses you hear. This builds muscle memory, and soon you'll find that you're able to think of similar responses in your own conversations.
The more you listen, the more familiar you'll become with natural English patterns. And this familiarity is what will help you respond faster, as you'll recognize common structures and phrases right away.
Another helpful strategy for responding quickly is learning how to anticipate questions in a conversation. Often, conversations follow a predictable flow, especially in casual or everyday situations.
Yes. For example, if you're talking about your job, it's likely that someone will ask what exactly you do or how long you've been doing it. If you can anticipate these kinds of questions, you can prepare your responses ahead of time.
That's so true. It helps reduce the pressure because you're not caught off guard. Instead, you've already thought about what to say. This makes your responses much smoother and quicker.
And it's not just about work conversations. Whether you're talking about your hobbies, family, or travel, there are always common follow-up questions. Anticipating them helps you stay one step ahead.
Exactly. By thinking ahead and preparing for possible questions, you can feel more confident and respond faster because you've already given thought to your answers. A really useful technique to help you think and respond quickly in English is to build what I like to call a mental toolbox of common responses. This means having a set of ready-made answers or phrases that you can use in different situations.
That's a great point. If you have a toolbox of responses for common situations, it saves you from having to think too much in the moment. For example, if someone asks how your day is going, you don't need to stop and think. You can just pull out a response like, "It's going well, thanks. How about you?"
Exactly. You can have go-to phrases for things like small talk, asking for help, or responding to compliments. Having these responses already in your mind makes conversations flow more smoothly because you don't have to pause to think.
It also helps you avoid those awkward moments when you're stuck searching for words. The more you practice and use these phrases, the more automatic they become, and you'll find yourself responding without hesitation.
And the great thing is that once you have these phrases down, you can modify or adapt them to different situations. So you're not just memorizing, you're learning how to apply them in real-life conversations.
Right. Your toolbox of responses is like a safety net. When you're in a fast-paced conversation, you can rely on these ready-made phrases to keep up without feeling overwhelmed.
Another technique that can help when you're trying to think of a quick response is paraphrasing what the other person said. This buys you a little more time to form your thoughts.
That's a smart trick. Let's say someone asks you a question and you're not sure how to answer right away. You can repeat part of their question or summarize what they just said. For example, so you're asking me about my weekend plans, right?
Exactly. It gives you a few extra seconds to think without making the conversation awkward. It also shows the other person that you're listening carefully, which can make the conversation feel more engaging.
Plus, paraphrasing can sometimes clarify the conversation for both sides. Maybe the person wasn't entirely clear, so by repeating what you heard, You're confirming that you understood correctly before giving your response.
That's a great point. It not only gives you more time, but also ensures that the conversation stays on track. And in fast-paced conversations, every extra second helps when you're trying to come up with a thoughtful response.
And it doesn't make you sound like you're stalling. Instead, it keeps the conversation flowing while giving you the mental space to think about what you want to say next.
One last key to thinking and responding quickly in English is to stay relaxed. The more stressed you are, the harder it is to think clearly, and that can slow down your responses.
That's so true. When you're tense, it's like your brain freezes. But if you remind yourself to stay calm, you'll find it easier to respond naturally and quickly. Sometimes taking a deep breath can help relax your mind before speaking.
And remember, speaking quickly doesn't mean you have to rush. Being relaxed will help you keep up with the conversation without feeling panicked. The goal is to be quick but also clear and confident in your responses.
Absolutely. And the more you practice, the more comfortable you'll get. Each time you have a conversation, you're improving your ability to think on your feet. So don't be discouraged if it feels difficult at first. It gets easier with time.
Yes, and consistency is key. The more you engage in conversations, the better you'll get at responding quickly. So keep practicing and remember that every small improvement counts.
Exactly. Learning to think and respond quickly in English is a journey, not a race. With time, practice, and the right techniques, you'll become a much more confident and effective communicator.
One effective way to train yourself to respond more quickly in English is to practice with thought-provoking questions. These are questions that make you think a little deeper but can help sharpen your quick thinking skills.
Right. Questions like, what's your favorite memory? Or, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? These kinds of questions require you to come up with more than just a simple yes or no answer, so they're great for practicing speed and depth at the same time.
Exactly. When you practice answering these types of questions, you learn to organize your thoughts quickly and articulate them clearly. You can even practice by timing yourself try answering within 30 seconds or a minute, for example.
It's like giving yourself a mini challenge each time. The more you practice responding to these questions, the easier it will be to think quickly in real conversations. Plus, it's a fun way to improve your fluency because you get to talk about interesting topics. That's a great idea. Real-life conversations aren't scripted, so practicing in a way that mirrors that unpredictability is one of the best ways to get used to thinking and responding fast.
Another strategy for responding quickly in English is to practice with small talk scenarios. Small talk is something that happens almost daily, and it's a great way to practice quick responses.
Exactly. Small talk topics are usually simple, like the weather, plans for the weekend, or how your day is going. Because the topics are familiar, it's a good opportunity to focus on responding faster without feeling overwhelmed.
That's right. For example, if someone asks you, "How was your weekend?" Instead of thinking too much, you could say something like, "It was great, thanks. I went hiking. How about you?" This keeps the conversation going without any awkward pauses.
And practicing small talk also helps build your confidence. Since it's casual and low pressure, it's a great way to work on your speed and fluency. You can even practice in front of a mirror or record yourself to see how quickly you respond.
Another benefit of practicing small talk is that it's useful in both formal and informal settings. Whether you're talking to a colleague or a stranger, small talk helps you connect with others, and being quick with your responses makes the interaction more engaging.
Exactly. Mastering small talk is like mastering the basics of conversation. The more comfortable you get with these everyday topics, the faster you'll respond in all kinds of situations.
Another helpful strategy to respond quickly is to use visual cues. By paying attention to body language, facial expressions, or even gestures, you can anticipate what the other person is saying or asking, allowing you to respond faster.
That's right. For example, if someone raises their eyebrows or nods while looking at you, they're likely waiting for you to add something to the conversation. This can cue you to respond without a delay, even if the verbal question hasn't been fully asked yet.
Exactly. Visual cues give you extra information about the conversation, which can speed up your thinking. If someone looks confused, you can respond quickly by clarifying what you just said. Or if someone smiles after making a comment, you know it's a positive remark, and you can respond accordingly.
It's amazing how much information is communicated non-verbally. And when you combine verbal responses with an awareness of these visual signals, it makes you seem more attentive and engaged, which in turn makes the conversation flow smoothly.
Absolutely. Noticing these small signals can also help you feel more confident, knowing you're in tune with the other person's reactions. And that confidence often leads to quicker, more natural responses.
Yes, it's like you're responding to the conversation as a whole, not just the words. This adds depth to your interactions and makes it easier to respond quickly without overthinking.
One important factor in thinking and responding quickly is confidence. When you believe in your ability to speak English, you'll naturally respond faster because you're not second-guessing yourself.
That's true. A lot of times, hesitation comes from fear of making a mistake or not knowing the exact right word. But if you let go of that fear and just focus on communicating, your responses will come more naturally and quickly.
Exactly. It's important to remind yourself that fluency isn't about perfection. Native speakers make mistakes all the time, but the key is that they keep the conversation going. Confidence in your ability to express yourself will speed up your responses.
Another way to build that confidence is by practicing in different settings. The more varied your practice, the more comfortable you'll feel responding quickly in any situation, whether it's a casual chat or a more formal conversation.
And remember, each conversation is an opportunity to improve. The more you put yourself out there and practice speaking, the more confident and quicker you'll become over time.
Yes, it's about embracing the process. The more you trust your abilities, the faster you'll respond, and the more enjoyable your conversations will be.
One major reason people struggle to respond quickly in English is anxiety. When you're nervous, it can be hard to think clearly, let alone come up with a quick answer. So managing your anxiety is key to improving your response time.
Absolutely. One thing that helps is to take a deep breath before responding. It gives your brain a moment to process the question and helps calm any nervousness. Even a second or two can make a big difference in how fast and confidently you respond.
That's a great tip. Another strategy is to remind yourself that it's okay to pause briefly. You don't always have to rush to respond. A short pause can actually show that you're thinking carefully before you speak, which can also help you avoid mistakes.
Exactly. People often think that if they don't respond immediately, it's a sign they're not fluent. But that's not true at all. Even native speakers take time to think, especially when answering something thoughtful. It's more important to give a clear response than a rushed one.
And once you learn how to manage that anxiety, you'll find that your mind works faster and the words come to you more easily. Practicing mindfulness or simple relaxation techniques before conversations can also help you stay calm.
The calmer you are, the better your brain functions, and that means quicker responses. So focusing on staying relaxed is just as important as learning vocabulary or grammar.
Another great way to speed up your responses is by building a mental library of phrases. If you have a set of go-to phrases ready, you don't have to think as hard in the moment to just pull from what you already know.
That's a solid strategy. For example, if you frequently need to introduce yourself, you can memorize a couple of introduction phrases. Something like, "Hi, my name is Daniel, and I work as a teacher." This way, when the situation arises, you're ready to respond instantly.
Exactly. You can apply this to all sorts of situations: ordering food, asking for directions, or even making small talk. Having pre-prepared phrases in your mental toolkit helps you respond quickly without having to construct a sentence from scratch each time.
Right, and the more you use these phrases, the more natural they become. Over time, you can adjust them or expand on them as needed, but the key is having that foundation in place.
This also helps when you're in a stressful or fast-paced conversation. Having a mental library of phrases reduces the pressure to come up with something new on the spot, allowing you to focus on engaging in the conversation.
Yes, and it's important to practice using these phrases often. The more you rehearse them, the easier it will be to pull them out in real conversations, making your responses quicker and smoother.
Regularly engaging in conversations is another effective way to improve your ability to think and respond quickly. The more you practice speaking, the more familiar you become with common topics and phrases, which reduces your response time.
Absolutely. It's like any skill practice makes perfect. Try to find language partners, join conversation clubs, or even have casual chats with friends who speak English. This consistent exposure helps you become more comfortable and agile in your responses.
Yes, and don't shy away from different types of conversations. Talk about various subjects, whether it's casual topics like movies and music or more serious discussions like current events. This diversity will prepare you for any conversation.
Exactly. And when you engage in conversations regularly, you also get used to different speaking styles and accents. This familiarity helps you process information faster and respond accordingly, no matter who you're talking to.
Plus, engaging in conversations helps build your confidence too. The more you speak, the less you'll worry about making mistakes, which will naturally speed up your ability to respond.
Right? It's all about building that comfort level. Remember, the goal is communication, not perfection. Embrace the process and enjoy the learning experience.
Another modern approach to improving your quick thinking skills is using technology. There are numerous apps and online platforms that provide speaking practice. This can be a great way to simulate real-life conversations in a stress-free environment.
That's true. For instance, language exchange apps let you connect with native speakers who want to learn your language. You can practice speaking with them, and it allows for immediate feedback, which is incredibly beneficial.
Absolutely. You can also find online courses that focus specifically on speaking skills. Many of these programs include exercises designed to help you think on your feet, responding to prompts or questions in real time.
Additionally, recording yourself speaking can be very helpful. You can listen back to identify areas for improvement and also get a sense of how quickly and fluently you're able to respond in various situations.
And don't forget about watching movies or listening to podcasts. Pay attention to how characters respond in different situations. Try to mimic their responses and timing to practice thinking and responding quickly.
Exactly. Engaging with content in English helps you pick up new vocabulary and expressions, making it easier to respond quickly when those topics come up in real conversations.
Practicing with flashcards is another effective method for improving your quick response time. You can create flashcards with questions on one side and possible responses on the other. This exercise helps you think of answers quickly.
That's a great idea. For example, you can have flashcards with common questions like, "What do you do for fun?" or "How was your weekend?" and practice responding to them. Over time, you'll find yourself answering these questions faster.
You can also use flashcards to practice vocabulary. Write down words you want to learn, along with a sentence that uses each word. When you see the word, try to recall the sentence quickly. This method reinforces your vocabulary while sharpening your response skills.
Yes, and the more you practice with these flashcards, the more familiar you'll become with various questions and answers, making it easier to respond spontaneously in conversations.
And if you're working with a partner, you can turn it into a game. Take turns asking each other questions and try to answer them as quickly as possible. This adds a fun element to your practice and encourages friendly competition.
Exactly. Incorporating games into your learning process can make it more enjoyable, and you'll be surprised at how much quicker your responses become over time.
Finally, seeking feedback is crucial for improving your ability to respond quickly in English. Whether from a teacher, language partner, or even friends, constructive feedback helps identify areas for growth.
That's right. When you ask for feedback, you're not just learning about what you did well. You're also understanding where you might be hesitating or struggling. This awareness allows you to target specific areas during your practice.
You can also record your conversations and share them with someone you trust for feedback. They can provide insights on your pace, clarity, and response times, helping you pinpoint what to work on.
Plus, feedback gives you a different perspective on your speaking skills. Sometimes we may not realize how much we've improved until someone else points it out. It can be really motivating.
And remember to be open to criticism. Embracing feedback, both positive and negative, will only help you grow and become a better communicator in English.
Absolutely. Each piece of feedback is a stepping stone towards becoming more fluent and responsive, so don't hesitate to seek it out.
Developing a growth mindset is essential for overcoming any challenges in speaking English. When you adopt this mindset, you see mistakes as opportunities to learn rather than failures. This perspective encourages you to take risks and speak more often, knowing that each attempt brings you closer to improvement.
Exactly. When you approach speaking with the belief that you can always grow, you are more likely to put yourself in situations where you need to think and respond quickly. Instead of fearing mistakes, you start to embrace them as part of the learning process.
Additionally, it's important to remind yourself that everyone learns at their own pace. Comparing your progress to others can be discouraging. Focus on your journey, celebrate your achievements, and recognize that developing fluency takes time.
That's so true. For instance, if you have a conversation where you struggle to respond quickly, instead of feeling defeated, think about how you can improve next time. Maybe practice that particular topic more or learn new phrases that could help you.
Also, surrounding yourself with supportive people can significantly impact your mindset. Friends or language partners who encourage you will help build your confidence, allowing you to practice speaking without the fear of judgment.
Definitely. A supportive environment fosters a willingness to speak up and take risks, which ultimately enhances your ability to think on your feet when communicating in English.
Visualization techniques can also be beneficial when it comes to thinking and responding quickly. Picture yourself in various conversational scenarios. For example, imagine walking into a coffee shop and ordering your favorite drink in English. Visualizing this can prepare your mind for real-life situations.
Absolutely. When you visualize these interactions, you create a mental script for how you would respond. This practice helps you feel more confident and ready to engage when the time comes. You can even rehearse potential questions and answers in your mind.
Yes, and it's not just about visualizing your responses. You should also picture yourself feeling relaxed and confident. This mental imagery helps train your brain to react positively in speaking situations, reducing anxiety.
And don't hesitate to use real-world examples when you visualize. Think about past experiences where you felt proud of how you communicated and build on those. This will reinforce your capability and encourage quick thinking in similar situations in the future.
Exactly. The more you practice visualization, the more it will feel like second nature when you need to respond quickly. It's a powerful tool to enhance your speaking skills and overall confidence.
Remember, visualization is a skill just like any other. The more you practice it, the more effective it will become. So, take a few moments each day to visualize various scenarios, and you'll see improvements in your response time.
Participating in public speaking activities is another fantastic way to enhance your speaking skills. Joining clubs like Toastmasters or engaging in local community events where you can speak in front of an audience helps build both confidence and quick thinking abilities.
That's right, speaking in front of people forces you to think on your feet. You can practice delivering short speeches or impromptu talks, which helps you get comfortable with speaking without overthinking your words.
Plus, public speaking provides an excellent opportunity to receive immediate feedback from an audience. They can share their thoughts on your pacing, clarity, and engagement, all of which contribute to your growth as a speaker.
And as you become more accustomed to speaking publicly, you'll find it easier to respond quickly in everyday conversations. The adrenaline and energy from being in front of an audience can mimic the pressure of real-life speaking situations.
Additionally, it's a great way to expand your vocabulary and improve your language skills. Preparing speeches on various topics encourages you to research and practice specific phrases and vocabulary relevant to your subject matter.
Exactly. So, whether it's a formal speech or a casual talk, public speaking offers invaluable experience. Over time, this will translate into better thinking and responding skills in your daily conversations.
Learning from your mistakes is crucial for becoming a better speaker. When you make an error while speaking, take a moment to reflect on it. What went wrong? Was it a vocabulary issue, or were you unsure about how to structure your response?
Yes, understanding the nature of your mistakes allows you to address them in your future practice. Maybe you hesitated because you didn't know a specific word. You can then focus on learning that word or phrase for next time.
Exactly. Keeping a journal of your speaking experiences can help you track your progress. Write down any challenges you faced and how you overcame them. This not only reinforces your learning, but also boosts your confidence when you see how far you've come.
Also, remember that everyone makes mistakes, even fluent speakers. Instead of feeling embarrassed, try to see it as a natural part of the learning process. Embracing your mistakes will reduce anxiety, making it easier to respond quickly in the future.
And discussing your mistakes with friends or language partners can provide different perspectives. They might have faced similar challenges and can offer strategies that worked for them.
Absolutely. Every mistake is a learning opportunity. By adopting this mindset, you'll become more resilient and better equipped to handle speaking situations, leading to quicker and more confident responses.
Setting realistic goals is vital for improving your speaking skills. Instead of aiming to be perfect, focus on specific, achievable objectives. For example, you might set a goal to speak in English for 5 minutes every day or to engage in one new conversation each week.
That's a great approach. By breaking down your larger goal of fluency into smaller, manageable tasks, you create a clear path for progress. Each time you achieve a goal, you boost your confidence and motivation.
Yes, and when setting goals, ensure they are measurable. This allows you to track your improvement over time. For instance, you could aim to learn and use 5 new phrases in conversation each week, gradually increasing your vocabulary.
And don't forget to celebrate your accomplishments, no matter how small. Each step forward is a victory worth recognizing, and celebrating these moments reinforces positive behavior, encouraging you to keep pushing forward.
Exactly. Setting goals is about creating a structured learning experience that keeps you motivated and focused on your journey. The more you accomplish, the more empowered you'll feel in your ability to respond quickly in conversations.
So, take the time to reflect on what you want to achieve and set those realistic goals. You'll be amazed at how quickly you improve your speaking skills and overall confidence in English.
We hope you found these tips helpful for overcoming the fear of speaking English and thinking quickly in conversations. Remember, practice makes perfect, and each step you take brings you closer to your goals.
Absolutely. Keep pushing yourself, embrace the learning process, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. They are essential to your growth as a speaker.
Thanks for joining us today. We encourage you to apply these strategies in your daily interactions and watch your confidence soar.
Until next time, keep practicing and remember that every conversation is an opportunity to improve. Happy speaking!